So behind me I have maps, and on my phone I have apps, and I have books, and I have PDFs, and I have so much stuff that I have to get straight before we leave on a van trip here in 10 days. Van life is not what they tell you, and I'm gonna share some of the kind of ins and outs and things that might be a little harder than you're expecting. But you gotta hear this first.
Hey Nick, it's Robert with the camper van Sasquatch.
That was a phone call from the guy I rented the van from. Great guy, no fault of his own. His van is kaput. The transmission is toast, and we have about 10 days before we are scheduled to leave on our trip. It's not a lot of time to find another van, but rather than sit here and tell you all about it, I have some errands that I gotta run, and I'll tell you as we kind of go about and take care of some business here, okay? So how could it even happen that our van got canceled at the last second? Well, for Betty and I, the idea of owning one of these Class B vans, these van life vans, you know, they're pretty spendy. They could be upwards of $150,000 or even more. We can rent one for a lot less than that. So when this guy called us and was like, hey man, our van doesn't work, I am in scramble mode right now because we have some pretty specific needs. One need is my wife absolutely positively has to have a toilet inside the van, so that's a non-negotiable. But the other thing seriously that was really important to us is to have four-wheel drive on this vehicle. And the reason that we want four-wheel drive is our last van trip last year when we went to southern Utah. If you haven't seen those videos, you should check them out. They're pretty fun. Freaking like 40 degrees and it's snowing.
335.
And this thing is like a little rock. We did some what's called dispersed camping, where you kind of get off the beaten track on Bureau of Land Management or I think National Forest lands. And you can literally like camp for free in these spots. And we really liked that. But last year we had a fancy van, and that fancy van, it didn't have four-wheel drive and it had really low ground clearance. So that was like, no. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Now we're gonna get some dog food because the dogs are hungry. What is the advice that I would give you guys on the van front? I guess the first piece of advice is start looking for your vehicle early. Last year we got caught short. Like we didn't plan our trip till like a month before, and that's why we ended up with the fancy van that was probably a little bit more pricey than we would have wanted. And the earlier you start looking for the van, the earlier it is, the more choices that you're going to have, because trust me, there are a lot of choices out there. You have to figure out what you need in the van. Do you want to be able to cook in the van, or do you want to cook outside of the van? Do you want a shower, or do you not need a shower, or do you want an outdoor shower? Start looking on these websites about all of the different features and figure out the things that you have to have and the things that you don't need at all. The way that we went about securing our van, renting our van last year and this year, is we used an online company called Outdoorsy. And Outdoorsy is probably one of the bigger kind of places that you can rent a van. And it's essentially a marketplace. People who own these vehicles and who don't use them all year long, they can place them on Outdoorsy for rental. And Outdoorsy has the marketplace. They have kind of the e-commerce. They have everything that is necessary so that Nick and Betty can interface or work directly with the van owner, and the business part of it goes smoothly. Last year we had some mechanical problems with our van, and because we had mechanical problems and because we rented through Outdoorsy, we were able to contact Outdoorsy directly, and they were able to get us a technician, basically a mechanic, to our van. Now, if I had rented from an individual, I'm not sure I would have got that level of service, and that's a really good thing. Dog food. There is a lot of chaos, there is a lot of unknown, and there is a lot of excitement around this upcoming trip. And you know, by the time you see this trip may be in process, it may have happened, I'm not really sure. I'm an old backpacker. I like to plan things. I like to know where I'm going and where I'm going to put my head at night. And this whole dispersed camping thing, this is new, and this is challenging me quite a bit because we are taking off. We're leaving for 2 weeks. We're going to be on the road. And right now, we don't have one place for sure that we're going to be sleeping or staying. How do I go about figuring this out? There are 3 critical apps that you should have if you're going to head out in a van. One of those apps is Gaia, and it's an app, you know, it's on my phone, and Gaia is kind of a GPS app, and it has lots of overlays. So what it does is you can kind of see where you are based on GPS, and it's going to show you roads and campsites and other things like that. And then there are overlays that you can put on top of that, so you can see if you're on public lands. You can see where the nearest town is. You can kind of use GPS in a really robust way, and Gaia is something that people told me I should learn, and I am in the process of learning it. Another one that was recommended to me is a pretty simple app, and it's called Public Land. If you are kind of in doubt, if you're not sure, like based on the map or based on Gaia, if you're on public lands or not, Public Lands, the app, will use your phone and it will tell you, yeah, you are on public lands. It is okay for you to be here. It's another app that has been recommended to us and we used last year in Utah is The Dyrt, and that's spelled D-Y-R-T. And it has a wealth of information on different places to camp, and it covers kind of your national park campgrounds and the state campgrounds and whatnot. Then there is kind of the private campsite world, the KOAs, and the other kind of campsites that you can pull into and pay to stay there overnight. And then the third thing, the thing that Betty and I are really kind of counting on, is this idea of boondocking or dispersed camping. And The Dyrt has reviews and kind of outlines some of the places that you can go, and because it's crowdsourced, because lots of people leave reviews, it has a lot of really good information, and it is current, so people are posting all the time. Now, on the van front, I got really lucky. I kid you not, there was one van available that met our criteria, and I got in touch with Paul, the guy whose van it is, through the app, of course, and it's ours. It wasn't being booked, and we talked, and Betty and I have a 4-wheel drive high ground clearance vehicle. So there is no doubt there is a lot more to this van life stuff than anyone ever really tells you. And I think I have just kind of lifted the corner on it and hopefully giving you some information. So if you've been considering doing this, you at least have a place to start. And if you haven't seen kind of Betty and our trip from last year to southern Utah, check out this playlist. There is some good times in our van from last year, and keep an eye on this channel because there's going to be some good times from this trip this year.